Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC, on WHTC.com, and on the WHTC app for your smartphone. Once again, here's your host, Gary Stevens.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town for this Thursday, December 14th. And 'tis the season for butchering names. Now, one name I butchered is, I will say I have a legitimate excuse. You spell Wiejczzyk, okay? That's the last name of Sarah, the chief assistant prosecutor for Ottawa County, Matoychuk. Now, Latham should not be that hard. But do you have it as a hard A or a soft A or a high A? I'm going to say Latham.
So that's a good guess.
But it's Latham.
It's Latham, yes. And probably in England it might be Latham.
Yeah. There was a question. Something. I'll explain something here, folks. Yes, I have explained in the past. I'm half Hispanic. And so it was brought up again today, and I was asked, can you speak Spanish? I says, listen, my listeners know I have enough problems speaking English, let alone do a second language. Jason Latham is the executive director of the Macatawa Area Coordinator Council. Jason, good morning.
Good morning. It's fun to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Some days it's good to be in this chair, and other days are today. 616-395-1450. If you have a call for Jason Latham, 616-395-1450. Before we talk about 2024, no, I'm not going to talk about 1924. That was I was posed this question at a family get-together this past weekend. Someone who has listened to this show and is a listener to this show said, did I hear you talk recently about the rail system, proposed rail system between Holland and Grand Rapids? I says, yeah, I talked about it. Well, I just heard something passing, and what's it all about? And instead of me trying to explain, I did try to explain as best I could, Jason. But I think the one thing I said is, don't expect it now. It was a possibility. COVID basically screwed everything up. But it's now back in, I wouldn't say the front burner, but at least there's some discussions about it.
Right. And the thing that I think most people might get confused is, well, are we talking about rail or are we talking about bus? And I think bus rapid transit. So that was heavy on the front burner right before COVID, and then COVID hit. So where we are now, and I'm certainly not up to speed on it just yet, but Grand Rapids is redoing their transit plan and has some draft information and data they put together, and that should be completed probably any day now. And once that's done, they have information in there that says, yeah, we need to look at expanding our services, and then we need to look at bus rapid transit. So you could hop on a bus downtown Grand Rapids, get to here in Holland, maybe in one or two stops, just like a Hudsonville, Zeeland, boom, you're in Holland. And then also in reverse, have that same thing, Holland to Grand Rapids. So I think that was the information they were looking at. They were trying to figure out what's the density we need, how many people do we need, how many buses do we need, and can we make this profitable? Or at least have it minimally subsidized where it could work. So I'm ready to dive in on that once the group is ready. But we should probably be starting that in 2024 to really get the data, get the understanding, and move forward.
Bus more than rail, right?
Yeah, that's it. Bus more than rail. I think that's the first domino that needs to go. And then once you have the ridership and once you understand that it's working, then I think rail would be the next.
Could
potential.
We see, or does it more depending on what happens with the discussion between dealing with the Holland Grand Rapids corridor before we even think about Holland Allendale, i.e. GVSU corridor?
That would be my guess. That would be my guess. I think the other thing that is nice with our long-range transportation plan, which I'm hoping to talk about here just shortly, is we're going to be wrapping that up in the next couple months. So what we're looking at is the housing projections, the traffic projections, just kind of where we are today and where we're going to be 25 years from now. And I've talked to Ottawa County and certainly Allegan County, but really want to jump in with some needs analysis and some deeper dives into some of the transportation needs in Ottawa County. So that's also on the docket for 2024.
If you got a question for Jason Latham, he is the executive director of the Macatawa Area Coordinating Council. He'll be happy to answer it at 616-395-1450, 616-395-1450. Indeed, our conversation is going to be centered on transportation. And let's talk a little bit about that long-range plan. First of all, A, how long-range are we looking at? And B, what are some of the highlights? I mean, we could spend the rest of this half hour talking about everything that might be in that plan, but we got things to talk about.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about the plan, the length. What span are we looking at, and what would be some of the major things that you would like to see done in this plan?
So we're looking out to 2050. So we need 25-year planning horizon, and this is a federal highway requirement. So once, we got to check that box. We got to make sure we understand what are we going to look like in 2050. So we have those projections, like I said, on the transportation side. We're even looking at land use. We're looking at pretty much everything. And the one thing that we do know is that Holland is growing. Ottawa County is fastest growing county in the state. So we're still going to be on that trajectory as near as we can tell. And we also know that one of the issues we're facing right now is housing. So even though this is a transportation plan, it's kind of that circle of life in our world is you need the business community to be growing and active. You need a place for people to live, and you also need to be able to get around. So right now with population increase, we're looking at a lot of businesses are trying to hire, and then we need a lot of places for people to live. So trying to connect all those dots and kind of show people in our transportation plan where we see the growth, and then what are some of the transportation areas that might need to be improved.
How much or what impact, is it maybe too early to say, what impact will the governor's initiative to try to get more green energy in and get Michigan off of the internal combustion engine and into electric-powered vehicles? How much will that play a factor in this long-range plan? Does it basically say we're going to have to revisit this in about 5 years or 6 years, or what?
Yeah, I think it's playing out in real time in front of us. I think as transportation planners, the last 40 or 50 years, we've seen some peaks and valleys in terms of transportation. I think 2008 there was an economic downturn. There's been some other things, but we're looking like 10, 20, 30 years into the future, trying to just get an idea where are things going so we can help local officials plan, and we can understand and help our transportation folks understand where are the hot spots, where are we seeing areas where if we did have increased traffic congestion, where we might have more accidents, we might have, things that need to be improved from an operational standpoint. So once we can kind of show that, it takes a lot of data and a lot of time. And then it takes a lot of data and a lot of time to actually fix those issues that we're seeing on paper. And when we bring up this green energy side of things, I don't think we really know how that's going to affect our transportation network just yet. I think we're going to watch it play out in real time. I don't think our projections and the tools that we use aren't showing a travel demand that's any different in the future with or without this particular environmental law that was just passed.
Now, by the way, for those who might be listening to this a little bit later on in our podcast situation, before Jason joined us, we had a chance to chat with Dale Souders. He is the retiring CEO of Holland Hospital. One of the first stories I covered when I came here in '01 was indeed Dale's installation as Holland Hospital's president. Another of the early stories I recall covering here in Holland was the talk of a US 31 bypass around Holland, around Zeeland, to ease some of the traffic congestion of US 31 in Holland and in Grand Haven. The initial talk was build a new US 31 that would be parallel to 120th Avenue and then have it connect up with I-96 and then go into Muskegon. The only permanent thing that has emerged from that discussion is M231. Now, 20 years or so later, is there talk or is there any consideration of perhaps revisiting the US 31 bypass idea? At least the bypass around Grand Haven is done. The matter is getting from Lake Michigan Drive to I-196.
Yeah, so I think that was kind of my comment earlier with the needs analysis that needs to be done in Ottawa County. So met with the Ottawa County folks and met with MDOT and kind of broached that exact question with them. And MDOT was very clear to say, okay, our 231 is done. Like we've built that project from M45 north. We got the additional crossing over the Grand River, and it's done. You know, there's no
and
more.
That was definitely needed.
Yeah, and they said there's no more 2/3. That's it. There's no more projects. And so what MDOT would like to see is the MAC working with the county and kind of get an idea of what are the transportation needs. Because I think they want us to start from square one, check that box, and then if we see that there's a need and we have the data, we have the information, then we can kind of go back to MDOT and say, yep, you know what, we need to either resurrect that or we need to modify what it was in the past. I think one of the difficult things with our job is people have maps of what 231, where they thought it was going to go, where it was, where they studied if it did go here or here. I think there's multiple alternatives. What would that do? What would the impacts be? So if you still have that map, you're going, it's right there, 231. When are they going to build it? And I think that's difficult for MDOT to explain. No, we selected the alternative that just went from M45 north. Any of the improvements south of that, we didn't select and we're not doing it. So then it's up to us long-range planners to work with the public, to work with the local units of government, get all the feedback we can, do some analysis, and then determine, do we really need it or not? And if we do, then we go back to MDOT and say, yep, we have that preliminary data that says we would like for you to study this again.
Yeah, two things that have to keep in mind. One, of course, is traffic volumes on US 31
right
in Holland specifically. Now that the Grand Haven, well, to a certain extent, still Grand Haven is a factor because of the fact that, for the most part, people who are driving on US 31 through Holland, they're not going to veer right on M45 and take 231 unless they have to.
Right.
Because the drawbridge is up and it got stuck. I mean, that's the
it's happened.
Yeah, and I can understand that. The other factor from then to now is the closure of the Campbell power plant in Port Sheldon, which is a factor because you're not having the jobs there. And we just don't know what the fate of that particular site is. If it does go back to, green space and natural, definitely it's going to impact. People are just not going to, you're not going to have the people needing to get to that spot as it would have been with the coal plant that is going to be shuttered in about a year or two from now.
Correct. Yeah, and there's a lot of work being done on that right now. I know they're working with the public, the township, and certainly the power plant. They're just trying to figure out what's the best use for that area and going forward. So we're eagerly waiting that information as well because we want to put that into our models so we understand what the effect that has on the transportation for the future.
Well, the question, Jason Latham, and then we'll take a break. We were talking a little bit earlier about possible commuter service between Holland and Grand Rapids, rail and bus. Has there been any studies? And if so, Has there been any feasibility possibilities about commuter between, say, Holland and Grand Haven?
So, off the top of my
is there even a need for that? I don't know. I mean, some might say, yeah, there is. Others might say, not so much.
Well, so in the world we live in, we're always wondering, where's the next dollar going to come from on the transportation side? So when you're talking cars or rail, there's just not enough money to get everything done with the system you have now. So that's MDOT's point. That's their talking point.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have enough money to maintain the system we have now, and you want us to build new roads. So that's one of the things we're looking at. But from an efficiency standpoint, is there a way to get a bus rapid transit? Can we move people? What's the most efficient way to move people?
And is there enough of a demand for that?
So with our long range plan, we haven't studied that, and I don't know if there's anything in the vault at the MAC that somebody might have done that 20 or 30 years ago. Maybe I gotta go look and dust it off. But I know there were some really good regional studies done 20 years ago that really looked at the Holland, Grand Rapids, and Grand Haven, kind of that triangle. As let's look at this as a big West Michigan regional hub, and let's look at it from the 50,000 foot view, and get an idea how that operates together, because it does. We are kind of all in this together. But then, when I say that, there's probably people in Holland that don't go to Grand Rapids maybe once a year. And who knows? So haven't looked at the Holland area, because, like I said, we're really focused on our long range plan, which does just to remind everyone. Our area that we cover here at the MAC, it's the 7 townships. So we got the 2 townships in Allegan County, 5 townships in Ottawa County, and then the 2 cities. So that's our geographic boundary.
Mm-hmm.
So just those 9 municipalities, that's 130,000 people. But that's what we're legally required by federal highway to look at and to understand what's going on in those areas. Certainly, I want to make sure I have a good relationship with the Grand Valley Metro Council and certainly our friends in Grand Haven.
Yeah, I just, again, that's, when I bring those points up, it's more of a case of, beyond perhaps a little bit of the MAC, and I understand that.
Yeah.
But, just sort of imagining.
Yeah, it's good. Well, so on that point, I'm gonna do my quick plug here. On January 17th, that's when we have our open house. It's going to be 12 to 2 and then 4 to 6. So at the MAC office, 301 Douglas. We want the public to come out, because we're going to have maps. We're going to have information. We want to have that conversation with the public to say, what are the transportation needs that you're seeing? How do you use the network? What would you like to see? And if they have questions, we'll have our database right there. We'll have our maps right there. We can kind of show people what's going on and what our projections look like. So that feedback's really important, because we capture all that, and that goes into our document.
Good morning. You're on the line with Jason Latham.
Yeah, I'm up from Holland to Allegan back to Holland. I bet you'd be a lot of people interested in that, and I hang up and listen.
Thank you very much for the call. The M40 corridor, has that been discussed at all?
Yeah, so we're a member of the M40, M89 corridor committee. So we meet quarterly. Our regional partner actually sets those meetings up, and then we have MDOT in the room, we have the townships, and then certainly us at the MAC, and give real-time feedback to MDOT. They're the owner of that corridor, of that road, and I think a lot of the improvements we've seen just recently on the M40 corridor with intersection improvements. I think there's a new signal there as well. A lot of that came straight from that group that meets quarterly to find out how best can we operate this corridor.
Yeah, I think more than anything else, that M40 corridor is not so much, it does get a good share of traffic. Volume is not the problem. Speed is the problem with M40 right now.
Yeah, and I know when I worked at MDOT 20 years ago, we were looking at a access management. We actually did a study. We worked very closely with Fillmore Township and MDOT to figure out how best to access that road, because I know there's truck stops there. There was a serious accident there with some fatalities. And it sounds like that network is operating better, and they've made improvements. So that's a constant discussion point. I will definitely say that.
Yeah, let's focus. I don't want to start choosing winners or losers, but be honest with you, the Holland Grand Rapids corridor might be more of a priority than the Holland Allegan Plainwell Otsego corridor right now.
Right. So, and the reason why I say correct is because just look at the number of movements and the actual average daily traffic. More people are heading towards the Grand Rapids area and going between than are heading down to the Kalamazoo through that M40. It's just it's pure traffic numbers.
Yeah.
So then that would kind of generally equate to, well, that's probably would have a higher need if there's more people, most likely.
It's kind of interesting. We're sort of in a little bit of a web situation here. I mean, you go south from Holland, you head towards Saugatuck and Grand Haven. Go southeast, you go towards Hamilton, Allegan, and then Otsego, Plainwell, and eventually to Kalamazoo or Battle Creek, either way. You go a little bit north and east, heading towards Grand Rapids, and definitely north towards Grand Haven and Muskegon. It's a web.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's good to have. I know this is more like, and this is Christmas season, Santa, what do you want for Christmas? Well, I'd like to have this and this and this. It sounds a little like that. How much does the Macatawa Area Express play within the council itself? So
right now we work really closely with them. They're working on their they have a study right now in terms of route study, and I don't know if they've come in and talked to you or not.
No, they have not.
But it's I would say everybody get on the on their website and take a look, because they're getting feedback right now.
Ketchamax is the
Ketchamax. Yeah, and then the only way that we can kind of help control how things are built or used is by getting feedback. I mean, we can use data, but we need that feedback. So reach out and let us know what you're thinking.
And again, repeat the upcoming meeting in January.
Yeah, so January 17th, that's our long-range plan. We want your feedback. Come to the office, the MAC office at 301 Douglas, and that's at 12 to 2 and 4 to 6. And
that would be worth your while. THE-MACC.org is the website for the Macatawa Area Coordinating Council. Jason Latham, I want to thank you very much for joining us this morning on WHTC's Talk of the Town.
Thank you.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Don't be a stranger. You're more than happy to be joining us, and we'll probably get some times and get you on here, at least on a quarterly basis, to tell us about how roads, how transportation and other infrastructure things are going. Jason, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Jason Latham, the Executive Director of the Macatawa Area Coordinating Council on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC. CBS News with Steve Kathan straight ahead, followed by WHTC News. And then it'll be Wellspring from Corewell Health Zeeland Hospital. And we'll wrap things up with the Evergreen Commons Report and Barb Visser on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.